Everybody out there, Raven fans, Oriole fans, thank you very much for joining us this week on a Ravery Sports podcast for fans like me. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content here. Thank you. So, thank you for those of you were watching a baseball game earlier, Oriole victory in walk-off fashion. We'll talk about that here a little bit. Cedric, outstanding stuff. Unbelievable getting a walk home run there. So thank you for joining us here. We're with you here every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock for our Ravery Sports podcast. Like and subscribe to all of our content. So if you're watching this now on our live feed, you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you're watching this on our Twitter page, and you're watching this on our Twitch channel. So definitely hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, go ahead and share the video with somebody that you know. All Raven fans, Oriole fans, happy about or love to see content, Orioles, Ravens content. So thank you for joining us here as well. A little bit more business here. Let's start with this one. Change up a little bit this week. Baseball summer is coming this summer, our baseball summer series. We're going to talk about the Orioles and the Ravens. Of course, we talked about that on our podcast. But this summer, we're going to go ahead and talk a little all about our minor league teams. So we're going to talk our Norfolk Tides. We're going to talk about the Bowie Bay Sox. We're going to talk about Frederick Keys. We're going to talk about the new team in Hagerstown as well, the Boxcars. So we're going to be talking about Little League World Series, college draft. That is all encapsulated. So more once we get to Memorial Day, more baseball summer on the Ravery Sports podcast. Other stuff, Genesis Notary Services /Facebook.com. So definitely check that out. If you want to go ahead and check out our notary business, if you have a need in the Shenandoah Valley area, definitely please give us a call. We're more than happy to go ahead and come out, getting more emails and calls and everything. So thank you very much. People asking me questions about it. I appreciate it, really. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. C, Charles Harris, We Are Legal Shield is our website for the business as well. If you want to get good legal protection, especially talking to you business owners out here right now. So definitely right now, no better time to protect yourself from all these lawyer fees. No better time to protect your business. How I'm telling you, you can save yourself thousands of dollars. I'm so grateful. I have it from my family, from my business, things like that. The value you're getting on legal fees and the protection you're getting with Legal Shield. So thank you so much, all of you out there that have already gotten the Legal Shield as well. All right. So let's talk business here. So we're going to have a big board this week. So we're going to talk the Ravens NFL 2024 NFL Ravens big board. All right. So what is even a big board? So we've been talking draft here for the next few months. We're in the draft season. We're going to have a draft here a few weeks. We're going to have a draft special as well. We're going to be doing a draft pregame. We're going to be talking about that. So we're going to have a draft pregame the night before the draft, half hour before the draft starts. We're going to be here talking about the draft. We may do a draft post game depending on what the draft happens. Little shameless plug there as well, right there. A little shameless plug, as they say. Okay, so what is a big board? So the Ravens are have always been, Ozzie Newsome, Eric DaCosta have always been one of the best teams drafting in the entire NFL. Even before the modern era of the draft, even like in the early days, the big board is what the teams use to stack up the players from 1 to whatever. Now, it is very hard to find information about how teams actually do a big board. Even ex-GMs, players, or ex-people that have been in the room don't really like talking about how they construct the board. They don't really like saying, because that really is the secret sauce. Best player available. Okay? How many times have you heard that phrase in football? Best player available. We want to take the best player available. So what they're doing is, how do they know who the best player available is? They their big board, right? They're going through their board and who are the best players on the board that you can find in the college football draft. Now, as far as the draft goes, the big board. This is how, from basically the information I'm gathered, we're going to do it how it's basically gathered, but I want to overview it a little bit. So, who are the best players? There usually are at the top of the draft, in every draft, about 6 to 8 players that are absolute, maybe anywhere from 5 to 8. They're at the top of every board. It's consensus. They're going to get picked early first. They're not going to wait to the second round. So they're going to be on every board, regardless of the team, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to have those. They may be in different order. They may feel differently about some players. Maybe there's 1 or 2 there, but there's about 6 to 8 that are there on the board. Then there's about another group when you have a big board that is about in the next 10, that first round for sure area. There's about 10 more when teams grade players. There's about players in the first round. It's about 10. It's about right. So that's what you got. So you got about half of it. So you got a lot of the league taking about the same group of anywhere from 15 to 20 players, we'll say. That's the big board. Now, what fills it out? The rest of it. Needs of the teams, right? This is the part they really don't like to disclose. This is where the boards really look different at that point. So let's say the Ravens don't need a quarterback, right? You have Lamar Jackson on your team. You're not going to have a guy on your big board in the first 30, maybe higher, because you're going to have you're looking at corners, you're looking at safeties, you're looking at this, you're grading them out. You're pulling those other guys lower on your board because, okay, you don't need it, quote unquote. That's just one example. Or certain guys, maybe you have a medical issue, or certain guys, maybe not a scheme fit. You know, maybe you have certain teams would want a 3-4 technique tackle, nose tackle. You're further down on the board, things like that. That's where the differentiate of the board. So what I've done here is I've gotten the board here to what the Ravens might have it look like. Obviously, I don't know what it is, but what are the Ravens' big board might look like here? Okay, so we're going to do 30 because they're picking 30, right? They're picking 30. This is the first round. We're not going to do a whole 60. And of course, a board probably has about probably about 200. They do the whole thing, you know, as far as the board. So keep that in mind. All right. Ravens big board. Who's on here? Caleb Williams, USC. I think he's number 1 player in the entire NFL draft. I don't think there's any question about it. I think definitely the Bears are going to lock him up. I don't think you can have him off of any board. I think he's number 1 anywhere. There's no question about it. Marvin Harrison, number 2. I've heard a lot of people say it's a debate between him and Malik Neighbors as number 1. I don't think it is. I think Marvin is pretty easily the number 1. Right? I think both of them almost kind of have the problem. They've been dominant for so long. They're so dominant. I think people are just trying to find holes and things in the evaluation. There aren't many with those 2 guys. I don't think there's any question about it. Jaden Daniels, I think, is number 3. Jaden Daniels, I think, is an excellent quarterback prospect as well. The Lamar Jackson factor, I think this guy has much more chance to have success in the league. Drake May, North Carolina Tar Heels. I like Drake May. I think these 3 quarterbacks, it's pretty big gap between those and everybody else. I think those are the 3 for sure. No matter what your circumstances, they're on the board because they're definitely very, very, very good. I definitely think they're in the top 4 here. Malik Neighbors is 5. Rome Odunze, I think, is a lot of people's choice here. Maybe in the other area there, but I think Neighbors is pretty good. I think there is a gap between him and Harrison, but man, I think the Ravens would love to have a Malik Neighbors on their team. Odunze is 5, right behind him. Odunze is 6, right behind him. I don't think it's pretty closer. I think it's closer to these 2 than I think people think. I don't think Neighbors is closer to Harris than he is O'Dan. I think Neighbors is an outstanding all-around receiver. I think more the league likes him because he's a more all-around receiver. I think Odenzi, is a little less polished, but man, I love the way he attacks the football. I think I've said that every time with him. He attacks the ball. I think he's an excellent choice. The Ravens would love to have him, definitely needing a wide receiver. Joe Alt, I think he's going to be off early here. He's the best, easy to me, best tackle on the board. He's outstanding. Brock Bowers, I think, is a top 10 on the board if you're grading it out. Bowers, I think, is going to be at Georgia from Georgia. He might get picked a little later. I think the Ravens are going to keep their eye on this. Sometimes because of the position he plays, he could slip down a little bit. Dallas Turner, best defensive player on the board. I think you see it. Defense, offense, the first 8 spots. Now we got a defensive player, Dallas Turner, edge from Alabama. I think overall he's the best, probably the safest pick to play here. Lalutu I really like, but I think you factoring everything in, the medicals and everything like that, Lalutu, I think Turner is going to be higher on the boards. He's at 9. Terry Arnold is really good. I think he's 10. I think that this is 2 guys now, defense, where the Ravens absolutely would take if they were there at 30 by some miracle, which I don't think. But I think they'll be on the board. I think they're definitely going to be monitoring Terry Arnold. Pretty sure those guys are going to go early. Corner, Kenyon Mitchell, definitely had a good Senior Bowl week. Definitely a guy who is moving up the boards. It depends on what board it is. Some people might have Arnold higher. Some people might have Mitchell higher. I have Arnold ahead of Mitchell still, but Mitchell's really good. I definitely think he's in the top 11. Nate Wiggins, I think he's fell off boards, not for me. I think he's still really good. I think because of Mitchell's ascension, he's dropped further than I think he should. Wiggins is really good. I like Wiggins. The speed, best speed of all that group there. So you see the little run there on corners now. You got elite positions there. I think absolutely Wiggins, I think, would be a good fit. Ravens would love to have him. Oshafatu. I know I said that wrong. I'm sorry, brother. From Penn State. Some people don't like him the way he plays. That doesn't surprise me. He looks like he's getting pushed over because he's kind of a unique skill set. His bend, the way he plays, is very unique. It looks like he's getting pushed over, but his feet and balance are so good. It's strange to look at. I think it's like when people I hear that when say him with the criticism of Fashanu, it's kind of like a Chad Bradford criticism. To use a baseball terminology. Chad Bradford was a great relief pitcher, but he just threw the ball funny. He threw it underhand. Fashanu, when you look at him, he doesn't look like what you think it looked like. It looks a little different. But I think I love him. I really like him. I'm sure the Ravens have him high. Lalutu at the edge for UCLA. Fastest player. Pick a speed rusher. That's who he reminds you of a Hassan Riddick in the league, of a Terrell Suggs, a guy on the edge. Did have a medical issue with his neck. I think that's the only reason why probably he's not number 1. I think some teams, when you have something like that, even if it was misdiagnosed, which it might have been, it's going to drop you a little bit. So I think some teams are going to be a little bit skittish. I'm thinking the Ravens would love to have him at 30. Jared Verse from Florida State. I don't think Latu's better than Jared Verse. I think Latu's better than Jared Verse. I think Verse will probably get drafted higher by a lot of teams because of the medical. Him and Turner, I think, be 1-2 there. Verse, I'm not quite as sold on as an edge rusher. Not quite. I think he's more of an all-around guy. He'll have a good pro career, 10 years. I don't know if he's an all-pro. Where I see it in Latu, I see it in Turner more, where they're all-pro players, for sure. Falaga, now we're looking at Ravens now really hoping some of these guys fall because now we're in 16. Falaga, I think from Oregon State, I think he's definitely a guy plug and play. So definitely if they go ahead and get him, definitely he's going to be your starting right tackle. You're going to have Ronnie Stanley on the left side. J.C. Latham. Latham is much better than what you think he is. The body type is kind of what people might give some pause because he's a really big guy, but he's awesome. I like Latham a lot. He's actually got a lot of great skill set. I think he's I keep saying it, he's better than he looks. I don't mean to offend you, brother, but like he looks like a big plotting right tackle, but he's much more skilled than that. Troy Fautanu for the Washington Huskies. He's moving up boards. I think like when we first started this, I saw him a lot like 30, late second round, like guard, thing like that. He's definitely in the first round now. I don't think he gets in the first round. All three, 16, 17, 18, Ravens can plug him in. Ravens can go ahead and plug him in at right guard. I think it's definitely, we all know it's a need for the Ravens. Definitely you could go ahead and plug them in. Brian Murphy moving up boards for that. I think he's kind of surpassed Jared Newton there, 19. I think the Ravens definitely would take a defensive tackle. I think he's the highest one on the board. It's not a need, but I can absolutely hear Eric DeCosta saying, well, this was the best player available. So absolutely, I see Brian Murphy actually going there. Brian Thomas seems to be slipping a bit. I think the Ravens definitely would love to have him at 20 as the 20th ranked player on the board. I think that's probably right around where they would put him. I think there's only 4 for sure first rounders. I'd be surprised if Brian Thomas didn't go in the first round. There are a bunch, I think, in the second round area or late first. Some may surprise you with some names, but I think there are 4, those 4, when you talk about Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Denze, and Brian Thomas, those are the first round guys. Jarrett Powers Johnson moving up again. Here's a guy who's moving up. Best center in the draft. Look, if you're looking for this position, this is what you need because you're waiting a while if you don't take it. So that's the thing with him. He's definitely the best center in the draft. If the Ravens would play him at guard, interesting to see that. Cooper DeJean, I think a lot of fans are going to mock Cooper DeJean to the Ravens. I got absolutely no problem with that. I still have him in safety. I think like more teams are going to put him at corner. I've kind of heard that now. I haven't heard the safety thing for a while, but he's pretty good as well. Now we're getting the players, definitely the area we're going to draft. Amarius Mims. I think the Ravens like him more than I would have him. I think Mims is a bit of a project. I don't know if he's plug and play. Boomer bust here. Got good upsides, but he's a little green. Tyler Guyton right there. I don't think the upside is as high, but probably more ready to play. He could probably put him on the right side right away. I wouldn't be surprised me. Jordan Morgan, 25 for Arizona. I think the Ravens like Morgan. I do. I think they're kind of bluffing when they kind of say, well, we kind of don't like there's not a lot to like here. Morgan, I think, is really good. Again, all 3 of these guys, you could put them on the right side. Mims, I don't know. You might have to put him at guard immediately. But the other 2, I think you could probably at least put them in a competition for right tackle. Kool-Aid McKinstry. McKinstry, I think, for Alabama. Ravens would definitely take him at 30. With the ability he has, I definitely think this is probably the end of the corners that they would have this high. McKinstry, definitely an outstanding prospect. Definitely, if you talk about a college career, maybe better than Terry and Honor, but he just tried to transition to the NFL as well. John Newton there for Illinois. I think he's more of an end for the Ravens. I don't think you could put him in tackle for them. So definitely, if they are looking to maybe push Broderick Washington a little bit, wouldn't shock me if they took this spot here. Last 3 wide receivers they might take. Like Xavier Worthy, I'm sure, is there. Fastest time on the board. Definitely, he's a guy that the Ravens would look at. I mean, you have to look at a guy with his type of speed as well. Ladd McConkey, see a lot of easy Ed McCaffrey with him. I think potentially, immediately, he can be a Wes Welker. He could be a Julian Edelman. You could put him in the slot right away. I think ultimately he could be an Ed McCaffrey on the outside. I think he's got that type of ability. Adnan Mitchell for Texas Longhorns. Differing opinions on him. I definitely think the Ravens could use him because they need a guy who makes catches in traffic. That's kind of what nobody's talking about, losing Odell Beckham, a guy who can make catches in traffic, 50-50 balls. Mitchell is a guy that can give you that. There you go. The big board. So that's a bit of how it works on draft day. The strategy, you look at the board, who's there, who are the Ravens going to take on draft day. That's how they do it. So okay, so hey, maybe this guy isn't an immediate need like a Brian Murphy, used for example, but he's 18 on the board compared to all the rest of those guys that are there. You might have guys on the board 56, 68, and they do kind of do nod to need a little bit on draft boards. Okay, so then they'll kind of have another way. Okay, so these are all the first, second round. Now we got the next round. Who's high here, and then what do we need? That's kind of how I think they do it as far as the big board. So definitely thank you for checking that out there, the big board. Next week, we're going to do our final mock draft. It's the draft week next week. So definitely like that. Again, we'll have our regular podcast on Wednesday. Thursday on draft day. Next Thursday, we will go ahead and have a draft pre-show, draft post-show. Check it out. Tell everybody you know, because when we're going to be seeing in the draft. Let's shift to NBA because we got the playoffs. The regular season is now over. We are going to have playoff games. Playoffs. To quote Jim Moore. Playoffs are to win a game. Yes, NBA playoffs. So we're going to talk a little bit broad about the NBA playoffs here, but we're going to do the 5 best teams in the NBA. So now we got the regular season completely over. We did have a play-in last night, but we're going to talk about who are the 5 best teams in the NBA. Now, my whole life, I've been a Laker fan. They're not going to win it. I love the Lakers. You know what weird is that even with a LeBron James, they don't feel like the Lakers to me. They just don't. The Lakers just don't feel like the Lakers with LeBron James there as well. The media, even me being a Laker fan, I'm kind of sick of them always talking about the Lakers because they keep trying to say that they're better than they are. They're facing Denver in the first round. They're not better than Denver. I mean, they're not even close. You got LeBron, who's really good. AD, I think, is good. They're not quite the same players they were a few years ago. And they're kind of where they're supposed to be. You got D'Angelo Russell, and you got some help there. The Warriors, they keep talking about now that they're going to stop talking about now that they're eliminated. It's over for the Warriors. Steph Curry had a great run. He's had a great run. He's a great player. Klay Thompson is about at the end. Draymond's not a scorer. As silly as this is going to make me sound, they really should have had it work out with Jordan Poole. It's going to make me sound silly because he's been awful, like for the most part in DC. But had that worked out, they could have extended their run. But they kind of ran them off. They had Draymond hit him in the face or whatever. So that was a problem for them there. So, and they keep talking about those 2 teams as if they're the only 2 teams. These, I think, are the best teams in the entire NBA. These 5 that we are talking about. Number 5, the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas, I don't think there's any question about it. This is just a nod. I think if I was to vote for MVP, and I certainly don't, but Luka Doncic is the MVP. He's Jordan right now. I don't think there's anything anybody can do with him. 30-plus points a game, about 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Kyrie Irving, though, has been there helping him, and he's been doing well. So Kyrie's been on the court. Kyrie's doing exactly what he should be doing. Assisting Doncic in that backcourt, getting his shot off, handling when necessary, doing what necessary, and that's the only reason. I do like them over the Clippers. The Clippers I'm kind of not buying. I don't think those guys feel inside like Kawhi Leonard. I think as great as he is, showed up just to get a contract this year, I think in large part. Paul George, kind of not the same player, although he's still a good player. Harden kind of put him a little bit in the bucket with the Lakers, just a little better version when healthy. But guys are not the same thing. Dallas, I think, is no joke. Dallas can absolutely cut down the nets. All five of these teams, I think, on this list can cut down the nets. I think Dallas is absolutely right there to actually do that. The Timberwolves. So Kevin Garnett rolling, happy to see this, I'm sure. The Wolves are no joke. The Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, I think this is phenomenal. I think he's a guy who can get 30 points. He can get 30 points every single night. They're the best defensive team in the league, for whatever that's worth, right? Nowadays. It used to be like the best defensive team at like 90 points or 80 points. So they are giving up 100 points in a league or teams are scoring 120 or whatever. But this is the best defensive team in the league because they got they got a lot of good size. They got Rudy Gobert inside, and also they have Karl Anthony Towns. Towns has to come back healthy. So I'm having him this high thinking that as well, because that's the thing. They have to have Towns back healthy if they're going to win the whole thing, because he just got back. They're kind of easing him in. That's the thing. But I could tell you, with Edwards and you get Towns back healthy, you get Gobert there. Defensively, I think they're really good. They're competitive with everybody. I absolutely think they can actually win the whole thing here. The Timberwolves. Oh, wow. Disrespected the Thunder. If you watch First Take, man, that was totally disrespectful. Here's what I noticed, too, about these shows. One of the reasons I wanted to do this segment is now you're finally talking about the Thunder and the T-Wolves and the Nuggets. And, I'm a Baltimore show. I mean, we don't even have an NBA team, and I'm talking about it. Like, why are you talking about how good this Oklahoma City Thunder team is? Third in the NBA in points per game, first in the league in 3-point shooting. Their team is phenomenal. SGA, I think, is an MVP candidate. If you give him the MVP, I really don't have any problem with it. 30 points a game, he gets it every night. Chet Holmgren, I think, is a home run for sure. He's definitely going to be. That's going to be a tandem that you're going to have to contend with for many years. Josh Giddey, I think, is coming along as well for them. The only guy, they're very young. The only guy I saw older was Gordon Hayward. I think he's there. He's like in his mid 30s, coming off the bench. But this is the youngest team, I think, to ever hold the number 1 seed. They're really, really good. I absolutely think I'm buying. I absolutely think the Thunder can win the whole thing. I heard a couple people say, well, the Lakers got a break not playing the Thunder. No, they didn't. the Thunder would have horse raced them worse. And I think with the Nuggets, I think you could have a more physical game. The Thunder, you're not going to be able to do that. They're just going to horse race you. These guys are quick, young, and I tell you what, this franchise has really impressed me. This is how you do it. How about drafting players instead of waiting for the big three? How about getting young players in and drafting them and getting them in your program and not this is exactly how you do it, the Thunder. So number 3 best record in the West. Oh, going the wrong way. I already talked about that. Management appreciates your cooperation. All right. Number 2, easily the best team in the East, the Boston Celtics. They won it by, I can't remember, a conference 14-game margin. That's insanity. Like, how do you win a whole conference by 14 games? But they did. Celts, I don't think this was my dad's favorite team. He'd be very happy with this version of Boston. Jason Tatum is terrific, as we know. I think he's definitely, I don't think he's going to win the MVP, but he's terrific. Jalen Brunson is outstanding. Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday gives them more defense, which they could use coming over from Milwaukee. I don't think it's close in the East. I don't think any of those teams. Milwaukee and Philly are kind of. I'm kind of not. They kind of have their own issues. They got Doc Rivers They got Doc Rivers in Milwaukee, so yeah, that tells you all you need to know. A lot of issues at Philly. I think the team actually, believe it or not, the first round, Miami, for some reason every year, they're in a 7-8 seed and they find a way to win these series or be super competitive in them. But I don't see it. Knicks, they were ahead of 14 games by the Knicks, and the Knicks don't have Julius Randle. No chance. Celtics, I think, definitely the best. Number two. Number one is more drama. Denver, no question. Denver's terrific. Jokic, I think, is the best player in the league. Besides Giannis, I think Giannis is better. I got no problem with anybody thinks Jokic is better. Jamal Murray is the best superstar that nobody talks about. 20 plus points a game. He's a guy you can't even double because Jokic kind of takes up so much oxygen as well. Michael Porter Jr. is growing right before us. He's a tremendous player. Aaron Gordon, I think, is really good too. I think they definitely have physicality. They're not super quick as far as on ball. I mean, that's probably the only thing as well. But the Nuggets, I think they already won the championship. I think they're going to win it again this year. It's going to be them in Boston in the finals. So talking about how good the Nuggets are. Nuggets, number one team in the NBA. There you go. All right. So definitely keep that in mind. NBA playoffs start on Saturday. So definitely check that out. Can't wait to see the playoffs. I'm going to be rooting for the Lakers, even though they're playing, the Nuggets, I think, is the best team in the whole league. Okay. All right. Masters last week. Scotty Scheffler won the Masters in Augusta, Georgia. I think the Masters, is the toughest course. I think the last day of the Masters, is not the only time I ever watch golf, but I think that's the toughest course in the world. I think to actually win there, you really have to be super guy as well. It's so hard. You see a golf tournament a lot of times, and you see guys like 4 under par, 3 under par. Most of these guys are professionals. They play all the time. 10, 11, 12 under par. How do you see a golf tournament and guys are even par, like over par, put you in the top over the cut? So Scotty Scheffler won. Definitely, he's now the young star in the game of golf. Absolutely anointed by the great Jim Nantz as well by winning the Masters. So shout out to him. ESPN. This is a couple days old, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. ESPN, quoting Awful Announcing. Shout out to them. Awful Announcing is great, by the way, if you haven't checked it out. Before I had a podcast, I used to read Awful Announcing all the time. I love Awful Announcing. I think the name is kind of ridiculous, but they have a lot of good sports media news. So definitely check it out if you like that stuff. So they're leaning towards opting out of their MLB contract in 2025. So essentially, what does that mean? So essentially what might be happening is they are not going to be doing any more MLB games as well on the network. They're paying right now, I think the number is approximately, around $500 million for MLB games as well. I don't think they have any other midweek games anymore except for the Sunday night game. I don't think they do anything else. They may have an opening game or here and there. They might have a game, but they're possibly opting out of the deal because they have an opt out at the end of the year. Why is that? It is probably because the NBA deal is coming up, and I think they'd rather keep the NBA if they would have a deal at all. They'd rather keep the NBA. So if they have to pay, they could be paying $1 billion a year to keep the NBA. They might be cutting it off with baseball and saying that. In a way, I can say I'm actually rooting for them to drop it in some ways, because it's amazing to me. And I just gave you that number, $500 million, and you don't even talk about it on your network. if you don't believe in the product anymore, then you definitely should let. I like to see Turner get it. I like to see Amazon get it. I know Apple has been showing games on Friday night. Interesting to watch those games on Apple Orioles games last week. So I would like to see it honestly than that. The big thing for me, the best way I keep up with the rest of the league is the Sunday night game. So I'd like to see what happens there. But ESPN, if they drop it, I think it's a mistake on their part. Again, I don't have to make the money decision on that. But just from a viewership part, I still believe in television and even media, the summer linchpin for my business, obviously, and for sports networks and sports in general is Major League Baseball in this country. That's what it is. So if you want the linchpin of that, you want Major League Baseball on your network. So to give that up doesn't make sense. We've seen this tried a couple times before with, okay, we're going to do NASCAR, we're going to do spring football, we're going to do MLS, to have, but baseball is something that you can have during the summer and you have content during the summer if it's, so I think that's a thing as well. It is talk to ESPN, Bally Sports, we talked about that last year, is having some issues. Looks like they are going to go under, apparently, a lot of the sources that I read and saw that they're going to go away after this year. So ESPN Plus may be picking up that action under the streaming service. So big changes at ESPN, definitely like that. I thought that was interesting that they may be not having the contract anymore. Let's talk a little Orioles prospects. So a lot of talk about who's ready, who's not ready. A lot of fans upset that guys are still minors. A lot of fans were upset about the Jackson Holliday, me being one for sure. A lot of conjecture, a lot of things going on. So let's talk about now what the prospects look like, right? What is there? Now, prospects list, what does that mean? These are guys that if they were play right now, they still have rookie status in the MLB. Some of them might have had a cup of coffee in the league, but they still have rookie status in the league. And I do take out prospects that are in the majors. So technically speaking, Colton Cowser and Jackson Holliday are still under prospect status. I don't have them on this list because they're already in Baltimore, right? So I don't think there's any point in going over those guys because they're already on the main roster. So, but who are the prospects that the Baltimore Orioles currently have in 2024? Okay. So let's go over this. These are things, these guys are not on the top 10 list. We're going to do a top 10 list. This is not any particular list. This is just kind of how I see it. Read, followed, saw when I'm watching minor league games or watching or just read in general or anything like that. These are the guys I think that are the top 10 here. These guys are not top 10, but these are names I think we need to know. Seth Johnson has been on here for a while. Seth Johnson is pitching healthy now this year. Missed all last year. Came over in the trade from Tampa. We will probably see Seth Johnson in some point this season. I'm pretty sure with all the pitching injuries that the Orioles have had, they're going to get him a little bit of season. I think we're going to see Seth Johnson at some point. Cade Povich, I think we will see. Now, he struggled a bit in Norfolk, I think, so far. Decent enough, but I think these two guys, cup of coffee, we'll see him. After the break, I think there's a good chance we could see these guys in the majors. Whether they stick or not, I don't know, but they're going to get every opportunity, I think, at some point in 2024. Creed Williams, keep an eye on him. 2025, I'm thinking about when I put it, it's like I might want to say 2026, but 2025, I think, is possibility for a September call-up for him. So that's why 2025 is there. Creed Williams is only getting better and better. I love him. Lost a lot of weight, and he's been killing it. Really committed himself. Creed Williams, that's a name you want to keep an eye on there. really doing well in the minors this year. Here's two names you want to know. Luis Amedia, 17 years old, from the Dominican Republic as well. Spent some time in New Jersey, $2.3 million, part of Mike Elias's international scouting from the Dominican Republic. He's just starting now in the Dominican. Also to now, Braylon Tavera going out there, more 2026-ish, 19 years old. Left fielder, outfielder from the Dominican Republic as well. Was great last year in the Dominican. I think now he's in Delmarva. So keep that in mind for those guys. Those guys are moving up really good. Lots of talent there, very quick as far as those guys. Now, who is in the top 10 as far as Orioles prospects going forward? Who are the guys that we're going to see? Not a lot of pitchers here, okay? But the two here on the back half of this list. Chance McDermott, I got him at 10. I got him about where he is. He's probably going to pitch for the Orioles like the other two somewhere this year, I would think. McDermott, I think you for sure want to get him more innings as well. I don't know if he's a top-of-the-line starter, though, from everything I've seen. But he has another good year at AAA. I think definitely he's a guy that can definitely become a major league pitcher. I don't know if he's a stud, but absolutely he's a guy I think could be on the level of a Kyle Gibson or something like that. I think that's really possible, like a solid starter for that. Max Horvath coming out third base. Just out of the college ranks, drafted last year. Very good college player. Very good college player playing third base. They got a bunch of these type prospects. Really hits for power. I like his power. I think like he's got to improve the batting average, improve his eye a little bit. But I definitely think on the right track, probably about 2 years away from what we've seen. I don't think he's going to shoot up. Hasn't got off to that great start yet. But put him in the top 10, I think definitely he can do. Another draft pick from last year, Jackson Brumeister, right-hander from Florida State. About saying 2020, 2026. Lots of tools. It's very interesting with him. He can pitch at times, but not all the time. If that made no sense. But he's a pitcher. He looks at times. He's got great control. He's got great command. He mixes his pitches. But there are other times he looks like Rick Vaughn. Like he's just wild at times. Like he's just got to get that under control. He's got to be more consistent. So he's going to get more time, I think, like that. Probably the highest upside. That's why I have him at 8. 2026, I think it is a little ways away. He's still young, even though he played in college. I think he's got a little while, and he needs some more time in the minors. All right, guys, a little bit more immediate. Max Wagner at third base just has to improve his average. That's all we need to see from Max Wagner. He can hit the ball a ton when he does hit it. Great power. Average still a little bit low. I like his defense as well. I think he's an old school traditional third baseman. I think he'll do just fine defensively. Some guys are at third base when they're big guys, not necessarily at first. He's a good third baseman. There's a difference. I think Max Wagner is absolutely, you can put him at third as well. Will there be a spot for him in this organization? We don't know. But I think he's really good. Dylan Beavers, I think, is pretty blocked. I think I have 2025. I absolutely think if this was an organization with no prospects, he might even be this year, and they'd be clamoring to take a look at him. A legs player, definitely great speed, hits the ball on the ground, plays great defense, can play any of the outfield positions. Definitely a guy in the future that the Orioles can really benefit from. Doing that again. Why am I going the wrong way? All right. Top 5 prospects here. Enrique Benfield, number 1 draft pick from 2023. Played at the Commodores of Vanderbilt. Legs player, moving up fast. This guy could absolutely, hey, look, as early as next year now, a lot of these outfielders, Hayes, Mullins and Santander could all be gone. So could he position himself to actually be in the outfield for next year or in the discussion like that? Him and Dylan Beavers, that's a real thing. So definitely, too, you're looking at that as far as being in the outfield mix next year. Connor Norby, I think, is ready to play in the majors. He's just blacked. I feel bad for him. I kind of was the same way with Luis Ortiz. I wasn't as high on him as I am Norby. I think Norby can play very versatile, too. Have him at second base, outfield. I think you can put him in short. You can put him at third. You can put him at first. You can put him like an outfield. You can put him in a lot of different positions. I think second base is probably his best position, but he's completely blocked. I don't see him. I think he'll probably get a cup of coffee this year, but I don't know where you put him. There's so many guys ahead of him as well, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Heston Kjerstad. Just bad luck. He's not here. That's the only reason. Colton Cowser. I did always think Colton Cowser was a better prospect than Heston Kjerstad, but Heston Kjerstad is really good. I love his resilience. Really had a medical issue that kept him out of baseball. He's pretty much made it all the way back. So outstanding for him. Good job. And I think he'll be here soon enough. I think I was a little surprised actually he was sent down, but he'll be here. So I don't think there's any question about the fact that he'll be here. Stowers, by the way, you're thinking about that. Kyle Stowers doesn't have rookie status, so that's why he's not on the prospect list. We're kind of in the same bucket. Stowers is about 26. Kobe Mayo, I think they're going to groom him for the third base of the spot of the future. I kind of thought about that halfway through spring. Why are they even playing Jackson at second and Grace and Gunnar at short? That didn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you just play Jackson at short if he's been at short? I think the reason is they're trying to clear that third base for Kobe Mayo when Kobe Mayo's ready. And I think you're going to see it this year. I don't know if they're in a hurry to do it, though. Having him at another year in the minors doesn't bother me a lot. But I think that's kind of the thing. So when they're all here together, that's what it's going to look like. Mayo, Jackson Holiday, and Gunnar at short. So I think that's it. Kobe Mayo is terrific. Kobe Mayo is going to hit 30-plus home runs as a major league hitter. He's going to be definitely a long-standing member of the team as well. That power on the corner infield, you have Mountcastle on one side, you're going to have Kobe Mayo on the other side. Lots of length. He's got to work on his throwing, though. Throwing is not good. That's the only thing that concerns me about him. A lot of times when they want to leave a prospect, a good hitting prospect, they kind of say defense, and I kind of don't buy that one. I think it's true in Kobe Mayo's league. Defensively, he's still got work to do. And Samuel Bellagio, 19 years old. This will be really interesting to see how this goes. He's another one. I don't know what the plans for him are, but he's terrific. His bat speed is ridiculous. Really hits the ball well. Really got great speed for a catcher. Good behind, not as good behind the plate as an Adley though. That need a little work though there. So they may move him to a different spot. But I don't know where you move him. But I definitely have him now. If you have Holiday and all these guys in the majors, he's at number one. You won't see him this year. I think next year, 25, I think would be the earliest. Probably not at the beginning of 25. But he's outstanding. There you go. Orioles prospect list top 10. So now you know some of the names. Orioles prospects now slapping down a bit. That's okay. You got so many young players, so many guys you've drafted. You're not always going to have great prospects, but right now you got a great team at Norfolk. You got great prospects coming in. So hitting prospects are overflowing. You just got to get some more pitching to go ahead and get that squared away. Orioles report. All right. So what happened this week with the Orioles? So let's take a look here. Recorded last week, won 3 games against the Red Sox. So definitely that was one ahead, and that was outstanding. They did lose a series. They lost 2 out of 3 against the Brewers. Brewers, I thought, looked really good. Their offense really did well. They after the series they lost Christian Yelich, but I thought their offense looked really impressive. Their pitching also was really impressive as well, even with the good outing that Burns had as well. Orioles win 3 straight. Sorry about that, misspelled that, against the Minnesota Twins. They won 3 straight against the Twins. Tremendous walk-off by Cedric in the game earlier today. I think Cedric's off to a terrific start. I still don't like the fact that they're not batting leadoff. I don't. That's just me. But he's contributing as well. Easily the best outfielder as well. I think he's done great. Thing with the Twins though, no Royce Lewis, no Carlos Correa. That matter. It showed. Their offense is not so good anyway, and when you lose 2 guys like that, they had trouble scoring runs all series long against the Orioles. Albert Suarez made his first major league start. I think it was during the broadcast. It was said in like 2,000 days or whatever it was. A long time since he's been in the majors. So good spot start as well for him. Who's doing well? Westberg, Ronald Hearn, and Mountcastle. Ronald Hearn, I think I'm the most relieved about because the season last year kind of came from nowhere, kind of got him off the scrap heap, was so good situationally last year. He's been fantastic here at the start. So Ronald Hearn has been outstanding. Westy has been terrific. Bit of a slow first week or so, but after that, he's been great. He's hit several home runs in key situations. I think the future's bright for Westberg. I just mentioned, hey, they want to give third base to Kobe Mayo. Westberg is going to be tough to keep off the field as well. Could he move to the outfield as well if they're moving Kobe Mayo in? Keep that in mind. Mountcastle is terrific. I think he's the best still pure power guy on the roster as far as home runs, either him or Santander. As far as hitting for power, mashing the ball, he's a masher, and he's off to a good start. Who's starting out slow? Obviously, Jackson Holiday. Relax. Relax. Quote Aaron Rodgers. Relax. Jackson Holiday. He's only got the 1 hit so far. He's adjusting to major league pitching. It's okay. This is kind of why, and people are going to say, well, he's struggling. Well, this is where he should be done. No. He's going to struggle anyway. A lot of young players do. Let's do this now in April. And let's not be while we're closer to a pennant race. Let's get him struggling so he can get turning it around here as well. He did have the 1 hit, scored a couple runs. He's really quick. Just got to get used to the speed of the game. Major league pitching, he's a little bit ahead of schedule. Relax. Urias hasn't done much. He hasn't played much. I think that's a direct result of Jackson Holiday being on the team. Holiday's been playing every day, even despite the fact that he's been struggling. Mike Baumann, not so great. Baumann, we got to get him back on track here. Not off to a great start here. Bit of a surprise for me that Kyle Bradish said Sunday, according to Jake Real on MLB.com, that he'll begin a rehab assignment in Double-A Bowie around the middle of next week. So that's this week. So he should be starting here a rehab assignment real soon. I'm a little surprised. I mean, with the UCL, you never know, but apparently he's been out. I've seen him several times out there before the games as well. The video and everything that he's out there before the games looks good. They're going to try him in rehab and see how it works. UCL, you got to be careful. So just be a little cautiously optimistic. The fact that he's getting a start is a good thing. That sometimes a guy doesn't need a Tommy John. The rest is working. That's a good thing. Yohan Ramirez is acquired from the Mets this week for cash considerations. So no trade back in as well. Jonathan Heasley was optioned to AAA Norfolk as well. Heasley struggling a little bit. They were looking for somebody there. I mean, Ramirez, good option. I thought he was very good in his first 2 relief appearances as well. Not too bad as well. I think, he kind of struggled in one. But I like what I've seen so far. I think nothing wrong with that. It's not like he gave up anything as well. Heasley in the minors, that's probably right for him. Heasley kind of looks like a 4A pitcher. Not quite a big leaguer, not quite, too good for minor league. Next week against Bobby Witt and the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City's better than what people think they are. I mean, they kind of did well in the first series, so going out there to Kauffman, and they're going to go out and play it there. And the Angels, the team they actually played on opening day as well, they're going there. After that, they're going to, God help them, Oakland after that as well. So going west. So getting this West Coast trip early in the year. I like that too. So in the middle of a season, West Coast trips kind of aren't what they used to be with the travel and stuff being better in general. But getting out the way early doesn't bother me. Having a trip in April out there doesn't bother me a lot here. Colton Cowser, who's terrific. I thought he was the best player in the American League. I'm definitely giving him Player of the Week. So he was just outstanding. I think Cowser has really left Hayes on the bench, even though Hayes has been struggling. Hayes has really been struggling. I mean, he's not even hitting 100. I was kind of the mind of showing some patience with Hayes, but Cowser's not trying to hear it. He's not trying to go back to Norfolk. So he's been fantastic. He's been one of the best players in the American League. Relax here, too. He's off to a great start. It'll come down. So we got a long way to go. All right? Keep that in mind. Okay. Definitely one last thing before we go. Check out these type hats that we have here. My Ravens, my Orioles hat, Ravens jersey, private stash. Lamar, you can get these at ravorisports.company.site. So definitely check it out there as well. Thank you very much for joining us for Ravery Sports Podcast. You enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy all the games.